What's up, everyone? Welcome back. We are at Women in Tech International. We are now sitting down with Rhonda Childress.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
Greatly appreciate it. Congrats on your award.
Thank you very much.
And great talk today at lunch.
Oh, thank you. I really love talking about women in security and the diversity that's necessary to be brought to that field. So.
Yes, let's unpack that. So you are a IBM fellow, a VP of data security and privacy officer.
Right.
Yes. And that how long has that been going on?
Actually, just since the beginning of this year.
Okay.
So the VP title since the beginning of this year, the IBM fellow for I think 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And you have like 156 or something patents that have been filed now.
Actually granted.
Granted. You have like over 200 or something filed.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So granted patents. I mean, and this is like, you run around the world and you're looking around and you see things that can be better and you're like, I'm going to patent that.
You can't. I carry a pad of paper and pencil with me and I hear people say, I wish I had.
Yeah.
I wish I had. And you sort of jot the idea down and then you sort of create this book of ideas and we have patent groups that get together and we look at these kinds of things and say, what can we do? And how can we fix some of these things that we see? Like, to me, the best one was some of the things that they did when I got sick. So my team, I had 4 pulmonary embolisms, 2 in each lung, was really sick.
Pulmonary embolism?
Blood clots.
Blood clots.
So I had 2 big blood clots in both lungs. So my breathing was, it was like having an asthma attack, and it was treated a couple times like I was having an asthma attack. I had a very bright doctor who recognized it, did the necessary blood work, found out I had blood clots, sent me to the hospital.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I was in ICU. They gave me TPA, which is what they give stroke victims because it was so bad.
What is TPA?
I wish I knew what it was, but it is a drug they give stroke victims right away. Okay. So it's that one that you're supposed to get within a certain period of time for it to make a difference. Okay. I know it's very expensive. I got the bill.
Yeah.
I got the bill. It's very expensive. But I did have to sign some paperwork for experimental use of it. It's a non-traditional treatment for it to try to break those clots up. And so I was in the hospital and you would get your blood drawn 3 times a day and you would get Coumadin shots in your stomach. It was not fun. And I had a very bright nurse who said, look, if we can figure out how to keep you moving and you need to take medication every day, within certain parameters, we can get you out of here. And I was like, I'm so in for this because, every day you're there, the clock's running. And so I called my guys and said, guys, look, here's what has to happen. And we went to work right away. So we created an IoT pill bottle. The ones that they had on the market at the time it either had an alarm on top. And I did try to put the alarm on my phone and say, take my medicine, but I would get busy and you're on a phone call. The alarm goes off, you just off it, and then you go, oh crap, did I take it? Did I not take it?
Oh, interesting. So the idea was to put the alarm on the bottle.
And so they put the alarm on the bottle, and I'm like, okay, so that's...
Even if you're in the middle of the call, you have to go
shut it off. Right,
get it.
That's one of the ones they had. And then another one they had, though, had to be programmed by the pharmacist. So I said, can't we take some of these IoT devices we had a $26 Broadcom Wicked Sense. We smashed it open and took the parts out. David Kumirs, who's a friend, he created a plastic sleeve, and we put this at the bottom. And the premise was if I push down and turn the cap, take the childproof cap off, followed by a tilting action, tilting the pill out in my hand, pretty darn good, reason that I'm going to take that medication. Yeah. So instead of just an alarm, or having to have the pharmacist, I've got a sleeve, which, by the way, can be used for universal. Pill bottles only come in like 4 different sleeves sizes, so you could do this. And then Mike Spizak created the interface. Makes sense.
That way you don't have to...
You push down, you do this, you tilt it, it's in your hand, you take the medication, and it registers with the IoT. It registers that you did these motions.
And you're not selling massive...
they're reusable. They're reusable. Exactly.
You're not reinventing the pill bottle. You're only adding a sleeve to it.
We're adding a sleeve, and it's cheap. It is cheap. Cheap.
Like $10.
Very cheap because I'm sure we could have gotten the IoT Broadcom Wicked Sense sensors, but you just need one that's got the clicky push button and the gyroscope that tells you whether you're tilting or not. And
Oh, you need to know that.
Well, you
need
want to take
this is more expensive than $10 then.
No. Actually, in a Broadcom Wicked sense, the $26 sensor, it's all there. And you could probably, if you buy stuff, and that's not buying it in mass.
Yeah.
You could probably get the sensors very cheaply now.
But there's a gyroscope because you need to know when they actually
tilt.
Because otherwise the alarm goes off.
And, well, then the alarm, it doesn't alarm. So you're supposed to take this. So there's no alarm on this one. You just push down. So it knows you push down. There is no alarm
on this bag.
Yeah. So you push down, right? So it clicks. Take the top off, and then you tilt the action.
Got it.
So pills in your hand,
so
about a 98%, right?
98 on the bottle.
Right, 98% chance you're going to take the medication for you. So the old ones used to have the alarm on it. That was the one incorporation that we found in the prior art, and the other one was this very complicated. It counts the pill rolls down this tract and it comes out and stuff like that. And there's never a guarantee that you're going to take it. Kind of thing. So
this is great invention.
So it's very simple. Yeah. It's very simple. And then the guys did this whole tracking interface, and I laughed at them and said, "Guys, let's be simple. Frowny face, red. Happy face, green. Neutral face, gray. They haven't taken it, And so it's all very simple. And just think about you being able to give this to your parents.
Correct.
You're not there with your parents. Are your parents taking their medications when they're supposed to take their medications? And you can track them from afar and have these things. Or you can, even with me, we can't, I didn't do it. So maybe my husband called, it says, okay, she's now 30 minutes out from when she should have taken it. She's, I paged her, you got an SMS on your phone and she's still not doing it. Let me call the husband, call the husband, let the husband know she's not taking it. And the husband could take corrective action, that. So that was the pill bottle part. And then the movement part was, the guys would go into my calendar and rearrange my calendar. So every 15 minutes I had 2 hours, and then I had to move another 15 minutes. So they would rearrange my calendar to make sure I had the time to do what I was moving. If I moved early, it rearranged. These kinds of things. But it would remind me to do what I was supposed to do.
Yep.
Some of the enhancements that they're working on, it would say, Ronnie, you've been on a plane.
You have to do this so that you could live, you could be healthy.
Yes, and I could get out of the hospital. But yes, so I could live and be healthy.
And actually, there's literature now that people's take better care of when their animals need medication than when they need medication.
We do, and if you actually look in the patent stuff, like we were talking before, there's a ton of patents on pet care. Just a boatload of patents on pet care, and not a lot on people care. Which is sort of astonishing if you think about
there's
we take care of ourselves.
There's more dogs in San Francisco than there are babies.
Yes. I wouldn't doubt
crazy.
It. So.
Yeah.
But we do that, but my the oncologist, she's like, when are you guys gonna sell these things? It's, my patients need these kinds of things, and these are the things that we look at. And it just grew out of a need for me. But it was, I need boom. Guys and I were right on it.
Right on it. That's such an interesting way of thinking. You're telling us a bit about your background off camera, and I think that having we talked about necessity being the mother of invention, and having all these variables kind of crunching at around you in your environment, that you're forced to maybe MacGyver something, or when you see things, like what do we need to do for kids, especially young women, especially the see it, be it mentality. But like when you see something and you want to make it better, the track to make it better. You have a mentor there to help you make that into the world. Right.
And that's really, what I like to do is how can we help these young ladies do this kind of these kinds of things? How can they see something and then realize it and make it better? Girls Who Code. Oh, I love the summers with Girls Who Code. I love those summers because they always come up with the most interesting projects and these kinds of things that they're doing for the betterment. And then I find out that a lot of them continue on as a group after the end of the summer of Girls Who Code to continue betterment of those projects that they started. And it was really cool because the first summer I was with IBM, unfortunately I got sent to China for the graduation. And I told the group, I said, I'm sorry, because I always tried to make time to go be with them at least once a week. And I told them I won't be here. And what they didn't realize is I had made arrangements to, those rolling robots that they had. I had made arrangements to come in from China. that morning. So it was morning in China, night in the US to attend the graduation ceremony. But I was really afraid that something was going to happen and the Chinese were going to block that, that capability. So we had like plan A, plan B, plan C, Luckily, everything panned out, and I was able to roll in on the robot and look at all their projects and interact with them with the rolling robot that morning. Yeah. The client was fantastically wonderful about giving me those 3 hours to be with the girls. Tell them what we were doing, and
good.
And they were just so gracious to say, yes, please, take care of that, and we'll switch our morning to the afternoon, and we'll just do that. But those are the kinds of things that make it worthwhile, is being able to work with those young ladies on these kinds of things.
And it's like a inventor mentality as well, and instilling that from the parents and the community and just the fabric around you, the social fabric, is how can we actualize people to actually come up with these thoughts as creative and critical thinkers and be able to actually build those
and
into
problem
the world.
solvers and problem solvers. Yeah. And how do we enable them with the right skill sets to do this? Or how can you build a diverse group that has the skill sets that you need to do this? So like that purple skirt, I don't know whether you saw the little video that they put together, like that purple skirt. If it wasn't for Tim Forshee, who had the time and the knowledge to put together the right chipsets with the BLE, with the programming, while I was handling the creation of the skirt, the design, what we needed it to do, and all of that, we would have never had it. And it grew out of the necessity to, on the first STEM broadcast, where we had 300 in the audience, but we had a live stream audience at that time with 20,000 kids. So how do you engage 20,000 kids when you're talking to 300 in the audience? Mm-hmm. Twitter or something else. So, how do we do this? And when I first said, let's build a Twitter skirt, everybody was like, we are not following you. Thank you very much. And I would explain it, and they still didn't get it. And luckily, Tim was right there with me, and he's like, I got it. And so I built part of it, and I built the panel that had the LEDs on it and did some of the soldering, and I sent it to Tim, and Tim finished it. Well, I finished doing the other bits and bobs that needed to be done. And, boom, the purple skirt was born, and, it was a big hit with the kids.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that we needed something, but we did need something. It wasn't like I had to have it, but I wanted something that would engage those kids so they could see the art of the possible. So, it's just one of those things that, that my team is always going, what is she going to come up with now?
That's a good character to be in your groups around you, is what's this person going to do next? What are they going to come up with next? How are they going to innovate or create? How are they going to help young kids that want to be actualized in the world? Like, that's a great role to have in your community.
I would love, I work with the Scott Family Amazeum. Do you know them? In Bentonville, Arkansas. The Scott Family Amazeum. If you haven't been there, you have to go. Okay. It is a great area. And I've worked with them. And, they've offered me Tinkerer in Residence. I'm like, oh my God, that would be so awesome. Tinkerer in Residence. Yeah. Would that not be an awesome job to have? Yeah. To just go and be able to play with 3D printers and see what you could do with some of these awesome things. Like the University of Arkansas folks using 3D. Who would have thought you'd use 3D printers to make clothing? Yeah,
correct. You just think, like, I don't want to wear those, like, plastics and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't want to wear what the 3D printer could print. I want to wear soft fabrics.
Yeah, exactly. But what they're doing, though, is they're using it for embellishments and things. So just the creative embellishment process. But it's just the process to see what you can do with it. Where can it go? Where does it need to go? The Tago Arc bracelets. Have you heard of those?
One more time, the
Tago Arc.
Tago Arc.
TAGOARC. So that's a bracelet that you can, and the business model on this is beautiful. It's black and white now, but display, but you can hold a pattern through BLE up to it, and it'll change the bracelet's pattern to match the pattern. So just think about that. The business model is I sell the bracelet, it's $200, $250, right? But the pattern's $1. Mm-hmm. We're pattern hoarders. Come on, how many patterns you're going to have at $1? but it's affordable and you can make your own. So some of these things you can actualize into business models even that you think
it was
of.
around like 3 years ago or so. We were messing around with, I think it was called the Moto X watch. And yeah, we were messing around with like a really cool design. Is it the one that
you can sort of follows your movements around?
We were I don't know.
Because I know there's one like that.
Couple of years ago, we were messing around with the designs on it and matching it to clothing that we were wearing and stuff like that.
Yes,
coming up with like different watch designs for the arms and different colors.
See, that would be
like
really
that.
cool.
It's like very fashion design, but it's like, you know, there's a reason why, like, out of all of these different things that we could invent into the world that, you know, we're doing what we're doing right now. I like to think of it as there is a reason why, rather than maybe like a nihilistic perspective of there is no reason why. And like the reason
sometimes
might be...
it's just because it's fun.
Yeah.
And I can do it.
Yeah, and in this case, it's like the things that have led you to who you are and where you are today, the reason why you might not have pursued any of those other things that were very creatively enticing for you to decide to do was because your soul was maybe meant for the divinity of the current state that you're in, bringing forth what you are building today into the world. And that is exactly what the world needs. And maybe with that type of a perspective, it might be a little bit more, a little less anxious, a little less depressing, a little bit more divine at times. So I want to also mention, since we're on this topic just a little bit longer on patents, you were teaching about prior art. This is something that I think that many people don't know, is that there costs a lot of money to file a patent, but it costs almost nothing for you to design something and publish a paper about it yourself on the internet.
And you actually have to design it to the point that you can show how it works. You don't have to build it, but you do need to get it to the point where you show that it's functional and it can work. So you can take something and put it out there in the prior art by publishing it somewhere, a magazine, your own blog.
Yep.
You know, you establish the ownership that kind of way. And it's really an interesting way to protect the design, but not have to spend the money to put out a patent if that's what you so want to do.
Yeah.
It's just, not everything has to be patented. There's some things out there that should just be out there for the good of humanity.
Yeah.
And nobody owns it.
Yep.
And if you've got some of those ideas, that's what you do. But I really want to be that one person who created that. I don't know if you've seen it. Your kids in the back seat and they've got that blow up divider where they can't touch each other and then they can't see each other. I want to be whoever it is who did that one, because I was like, that was brilliant.
Wait.
Absolutely brilliant.
Wait, question for those of us that are ignorant of what the interpersonal child interactions are in the backseat. Why is it divided?
You don't remember when you were young and you would sit next to your brother or sister in a seat and poke at them and make faces at them. And they're like, Mommy's touching me. Mommy's touching me. Mommy's touching me. He's making faces at me. He's making faces at me.
And you would be in the middle of driving.
And you would be driving, and all you hear is that noise from the back seat. Now you've got this divider, and they can't see and touch each other. They're like they're in their own little cocoon world.
Oh my goodness! What a crazy thing! It's just it's a blow. You can blow it up and compress it.
Apparently, yes.
Yeah. That is so interesting.
Some of the things people come up with to solve problems are pretty funny.
Sometimes Alfredo and I do that too. We poke each other and we're like, he's not doing right, he's not doing right. Yeah, we have to put a blow up divider between them.
Yeah, there you go.
Imagine that in tech offices, like the blow up dividers.
I'm being annoyed. Let me make my cocoon. Yeah, that actually might work.
That is so funny.
Blow up cubicle.
So blow up cubicles. So just like that, one can get involved in the patenting process by just having some prior art to prevent others from patenting it.
Just like
and
that.
There's that, and then there is the process of patenting. There's creating something open source for the world as well. So there's all these different types of ways, and I just love the spirit that you have about invention. We have that same spirit about invention, and it's crazy how much easier it becomes to want to invent when you have time, because you have food and you have water, you have shelter,
exactly.
These basic things.
You have the electricity, you've got your basic necessities, And at that point, you're good to go. When I was younger, I never probably would have thought to do this because of the things I had to do around the house to keep the house going.
Exactly.
You know,
keep the bills paid.
Keep the bills paid and those kinds of things. But now that you've got it and you're steady, you know, your brain sort of switches on to other things. And depending on how you're wired, might explain how your brain switches, because I was always wired and taught you help, you have, you give.
Yeah.
So I just look at things like, well, how can we make that better? What am I seeing? You know, I'll have like friends that, like one colleague, her mom wasn't eating. And she had to call her cousins to tell her to, you know, and she didn't know this until the doctor called her. And, you know, her mom was very sick at that point. And so she had to call her cousins who lived there, and she had to fly down there and stuff. And she said, Rhonda, what can we do? And I said, well, we could unobtrusively IoT enable the house. We can put sensors to know when the refrigerator doors are being opened and when the pantry doors are being opened, which are indicative of she's eating. Right, dishes have to be done and things like that. These are all indicators, you know, not solid ones, but they're indicators of habits. And so I love when people say, what can we do to help with this? We built a solar school, you know. And
where's that at?
It's a school in a box, actually, is what it is, with solar panels. So think of what this could be used for in Costa Rica or these places where there's natural disasters.
Yeah.
It's less than $200 for the components, including the solar panel, to run the electricity. All the lessons are on a hard drive in here. And we can get these really robust terminals off of Amazon that have these antennas that can make their own LAN. And children could continue in these areas where there's natural disasters to have schooling.
School in a box?
It's solar school. We call it the solar school.
And then
because it uses solar power, so you don't have to have electricity. So there's no infrastructure required. You need some sun.
You
have some sun.
Yeah, and then the hard drive's connected. There's a display as well.
Well, it's there, but then we give them these terminals and they connect and they make their own little LAN.
Oh, they make their own little LAN,
and the lessons are on a hard drive.
Yep.
On in the solar school, which is, you know, run the electricity. So the solar panels run the electricity.
Is this being used?
No, that we've had some interest with some groups wanting to use it for Bible studies and things like that in
disaster relief.
Disaster relief. It's less than $200 for the components, and you could probably get it even cheaper. These are things we buy off the shelf.
Yeah.
You know, and these are things that
cheaper,
Janani, I can't ever say her last name, I always screw it up, but she was like, what can we do to help areas in India? She's from India, to get, you know, education and these kinds of things. So we're like, we could probably do a school in a box. Let's see if we can find, but these require you to have some basic, you know, electricity knowledge, you know, resistors and components, you know, how to use solar panels, just some basic knowledge. But with these basic knowledge, you can do so much good for people with these solar schools and these kinds of things. It's just awesome what you can do.
Yeah, there was, I think, Akon's relief in Africa. He also sent solar panels to be able to, very small solar panels to be able to charge items.
Yes.
Like that. And I thought that what you were describing, solar school, so interesting as well. Just how can you solve for more ubiquity and education across the world without the necessity of the infrastructure in those locations.
Exactly, because if you don't have it, what are you going to do? So now you have to figure out, and we don't want you to have to put up this huge infrastructure to have to do this. So what can we put in a box? So at the STEM telecast that I did, we had two young ladies there from Australia. And one of them was the ISCF winner last year, and they were actually, and her thing is everything old is new again. So they have taken in a flat pack a water purifying system. So water purifying system that they did, and it's all in the flat pack, can be towed very, you know, very economical, very flat pack, not huge, because the ones they have right now are just so huge. And they debuted it at the IESF a couple weeks ago, and you know, it's just, Mackenzie is so amazing. I can't say enough about Mackenzie. She's just so amazing for a 17-year-old who looks at things differently. So last year she won for the contralateral breast shield, which I had to look up what all those words meant, you know. But if you remember back in the old days, they used to use sort of like a fish scale kind of approach to create armor for the horses. back in the dynasty, whatever, right? What she did was she used copper, which is a more conductive metal of rejecting the radiation. And she took all these little pieces of copper and hooked them together like chainmail and made it so it could drape across the breast that's not getting the radiation treatment, making it much more effective during radiation treatments of protecting that breast. This is a 16-year-old, for God's sakes, right?
Like those little X-ray skirts that we wear.
Right. But they're not made of lead, which is bad for you. It's made of copper which is fine, and it's more protective. So it's not harmful and it's more protective. And this is a 16-year-old. But her thought is everything old is new again. So she looked at
everything that's old is new again.
She looked at these things that they did to protect the horses and came up with this idea. The same way with the water purification system with her, and I cannot for life remember the other young lady's name, but worked together and came up with this water purification system. And I can give you a picture and everything of it. And I did an interview of it on our STEM telecast, but it was, there's such amazing young people out there that's solving some of these things. And I would have never thought to go back in history to pick up something, to do something different, to be honest with you. But now she's made me think,
What else is like that?
Exactly. Yeah. What else is like that?
Yeah, there's a lot that we can learn from how civilization got to where it is today.
Well, the Egyptians and all these...
So many things are gone now from the civilizations of the past that were actually, in many ways, more intelligent than what we have today.
Right.
And let's take some of those things and implement them today. So, okay, we've spent a lot of time on patents.
Sorry, that's
which
my
is great.
Yeah.
But I love it.
And inventions.
Inventions, patents, inventions, kids inventing, like all of that is phenomenally important. That's why we spent so much time on it. But now, let's transition to data security and privacy. So, you were teaching me about this. There's encryption, there's obfuscation.
Yes.
And there's depth and defense.
Yeah.
There are these, let's unpack these. Encryption first. Let's talk about that for a bit.
Okay, well, there's all kinds of different types of encryption. The bigger the key is, the harder it is to break. But encryption is...
As in how many...
Yeah, how many characters, or things like that.
Like a 256
how many
characters.
So if you're doing AES 256 encryption, which is a standard, right? And I had somebody say, I lost my key and I need to get it back. How long will it take? Well, it's probably 10 times 10 to the 52nd power if you were to go to all the iterations to try to find that key. Now, you might get lucky and find it in the first 5 years of your life, but 10 times 10 to the 52nd is a whole lot of time, and a single computer's not going to do it. So the bigger that number, 256, 128, is after it, the harder it is to do that.
Are we doing like more than 256 right now?
I don't think I've seen anything beyond that can reasonably be done.
And is that taking like your file, let's say it's a just classic PDF file, you don't want anyone to see it, so then you're taking the ones and zeros and
you're changing the number. So just think of it as, I'm trying to think, there's some really good movies out there, but the very first Tom Hanks one, Angels and Demons. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? And they talk about encryption. You're changing it in such a way that only you know how to undo it. That's encryption. So you're not doing a simple substitution, but you're just changing in such a way that you're the only one who knows how to put it back to right so you can read it. And you have to have the key to do that. And without this key, you can't put it back to right. So that's encryption at its simplest form.
And you probably don't want to write that on like some
not on some piece of paper sort of laying around. Anyway. That's usually not a good thing.
Where do you store your
crypto key?
Well, where do you then? Like, what is a good
there
place?
There are crypto key storage places that you can store
it. But then don't they see it too, though?
There's some trust factors that have to go into some of these things. You do have there does come a time like you have to trust something.
Does IBM tell its clients that they'll take care of them, or like
if we're running their systems for them, a lot of times we will have the key for that data, and sometimes we'll tell the client we would feel more comfortable if they kept the key. It just depends, to be honest with you. So there's that. Then there's obfuscation is you make it look like something else. You try to hide it. You just try to hide it. So Social Security patterns, because when people try to look like for Social Security, you're technically looking for the pattern, 3 numbers, dash 2 numbers, dash 4 numbers.
Yeah.
So, take it out, jumble it around. Yeah. Don't make it look so obvious that that's what it is. And security through obfuscation, as we say, is not the rightest thing to do, but some people still believe
it works.
It can work. It can work in some cases if you have to.
I have a
for simple things.
For testing the fences, if there's a weak, slow, we'll get there. We'll get there. But
we'll get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh. And then, but I think everybody has agreed that the most common is what we call depth and defense. So think of a castle. So you've got the castle, this is your enterprise, and you've built these concentric moats around them of different types. Some of them might have oil and fire, and some of them might be water, and some of these might be crocodiles or snakes or whatever, okay? And they're just concentric circles. And for a bad person to break in, they have to cross all those concentric circles. The more circles you have, the harder the circles are. That's called depth and defense. That's the easiest way to explain it. I could go into, host intrusion detection, stuff like that, and then people's eyes glaze over and they get lost. So it's easier to explain it with the castle moat.
That's really relatable.
Kind of mentality kind of thing.
And you get a notification when they start attacking the first moat.
You should get a notification. If you've done it properly, you should get a notification when they're trying to cross the first moat. Even the moat's way out there. You got people watching it, right? You got your little watchers out there watching it kind of thing. So you're with your security operations center.
Cool.
And so there's those kinds of defenses that we talk about. We like to have encryption because if for some reason somebody does get all the way through, you're just making it harder for them to get the data and get at the data. So we like to encrypt it.
Yep.
And we can't depend anymore on all these depth and defense decryptions now as we move to the cloud either. Because, that relies on somebody, because sometimes people have forgotten all this stuff exists. And when they move to the cloud, they forget that they have to re-enable all that stuff because they haven't been doing it. Because in enterprise, people on high, some group over here has been doing it for them and they forget that it existed. And so when they move to the cloud, sometimes they forget they need to do all these things still again to protect it. So you try to make it harder for them to do that kind of stuff. And then you try to remind folks your application must defend itself also. So, and that's an old concept that's becoming new again, actually. So when I went to university, that was one of the things they taught you. You defend yourself. You do not depend on anything else. So that would be like you being a very rich person and not being, shown to have any hand-to-hand combat moves or anything like that. I just look cute and walk around, and if someone attacks me, I'm toast at that point. So now you want to teach this thing to defend itself. You want to teach it some hand-to-hand combat. You want to teach it to reject things that look strange and silly and things like that. So the application must now defend itself too. So you want to make sure they can't get through the concentric moats. If they do get through the concentric moats, you want to make sure they can't get at the data because you're moving it around. It's encrypted, so somebody can snoop around. They can't see it. They're going, what? This looks like garbage. Let me look at the drive. Oh, that looks like garbage. Now let me see if I can get in the application. Oh, the application's spending me off. So if you can do all that, that's really good security, data security, and privacy that you're doing with there.
Great. That sounds like world-class security.
It is world-class security if you do all those things like
and
that.
And
my security colleagues are probably now cringing horribly.
Why? It's very relatable.
It's the simplest way to say it.
It's important to make the simplest way
I
out there.
I know. But they just
get
cringing. Someone's going, oh my God.
The very technical people can have their place for other very technical people that want to learn. But for the ones that want the very surface level.
We can geek out on our own,
Yes. Let's get the surface level out there to people. And then slowly we can talk about the more technical stuff as well. So, okay. Now, this process that you just described, it is available to IBM clients?
It's available to IBM clients, but this is a normal coding set of methods and a generally accepted practice for everybody to do these kinds of things. So it's not just IBM clients.
Like Hirschevek Group, like they probably do similar security practices.
There's all kinds of, most of the coders should do similar security. Most enterprises should do similar security practices, to be honest with you. If you're a good world-class protector of the data, you're doing these kinds of practices. You're penetration testing your applications to make sure they're secure. You're penetration testing the concentric circles, your defenses, to make sure that they're in place and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing for you and protecting your client and your client's data.
So after you have set up the concentric circles and all this infrastructure, then you attack yourself to see if it's working, see if you get the notifications, and then that's the strength testing. Which let's unpack this, like hitting the fences.
So you get these things. These guys are called white hackers. Okay.
White hackers.
White hackers.
Does that mean like
white hackers? They're good guys. They're the good guys. They're the good guys. They have some. They have several of the same techniques. They're trained the same way hackers are. They watch the dark web and they learn from these guys. But they're going to try all their tips and techniques to see if they can break in. So it's sort of like some of these museums hire people to come and see if they can burglar into the museum.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of burglaring into the museum, they're trying to burglar into your systems to see if what they can steal and what they can find. And it's really cool, these techniques that these guys do, a lot of different things. So like with my stuff, I get people a little upset because I'll say, I want you to break it. And they'll go, what? I said, break it. I want you to really throw the book at it and give it a go. This is the only way I'm going to know, have we done everything we can to protect ourselves. You know, I don't want you to look at policy and what we're supposed to be doing. I want you to give it the best shot you can to try to break into it.
Why hackers? So
white
interesting.
Hackers.
Yeah.
White hat hackers. Yes.
White hat hackers. Yeah. White hackers. And then there's also the people that get hired to attempt to burglarize museums. It's so interesting.
But they're the same kind of people.
The same kind of people. That's because they're good guys that are testing it to make sure that the bad guys can get in. Very interesting. And then this was also interesting, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but the low and slow. We started talking about that a bit earlier. So a lot of times, the best way to think of the way hackers think is, like I told Jurassic Park, okay, the first movie, or the Velociraptor. I love Jurassic Park, by the way. The Velociraptors are there, and I know you don't see them, but you hear these noises they're making, and they ask, what's going on? And the response is they're systematically testing the fence for weaknesses, and that's what hackers do. They try to systematically test your moats to find out, has this ground filled in, and can I skate across here or something like that? And so hackers try to do that. Another technique they try to do is what I call the low and slow, where they know that there's certain levels something's going to happen. They just don't know what that level is. So they'll start very low and see if they can trip it. So they might say, well, let me try this, or like a baby, let me try and pull this little piece off here and see if it notices me. I've just taken it, and I'll look around and see if anybody's paying attention to me, and no one's paying attention, so I've got a little piece of cake. No one sees it, right? Let me grab a bigger piece of cake and see if anybody notices this is going on. And then
Right. So they'll do it repeatedly until they trip something. Once they trip something, they'll go, okay, now I know about where that level is on this thing. Let me see what the next level is. So they're trying to see where the responses will come in. And they can combine several of those things together to try to break into the system if you're not careful. So you got to guard against low and slows also, not just a direct frontal attack. The Huns are coming at you. think of the what's that horse that they had that they hid in? The Trojan horse. Yeah, think of a Trojan horse like that.
Yeah.
So they're trying to hide and figure out how they can slide in underneath your wires there.
So many different ways to tap in. Testing the fences, taking just a little bit at a time, the infrastructure that needs to be built out to prevent that, the white hackers.
And the people that pay attention to it, and the knowledge that they get from their threat intelligence systems, and bringing that all together, so, and this is where augmented intelligence, I know this week they've been talking AI, and sometimes it's artificial intelligence and augmented. I think it's more augmented, to be honest with you. But that's where these augmented intelligent things come in, that they can do these things. So like it learns your habits. So wouldn't it be cool if they know you're a SOC analyst, security operation analyst, and they know that these are like the 10 things you always do. The ticket's being assigned to you to go work. Let me go do these 10 things so you don't have to go do it. Here, let me give you the data. Now you can start doing whatever your next steps are. Would that not be cool that it learns what your habits are and helps you by doing these things for you in advance, so we can speed up the process a little bit? So when I think of things that are coming, those are the kinds of things I think are really cool with security. Being able for it to learn these kinds of things, for it to be able to take all of the gobbledygook that we say in security, and sometimes it is Russian, or as when my boss says, "You're speaking PhD level, can you come down?" Be able to take that and say, putting it in the language of a CISO, that they can understand, that they understand the business impact of what's happening. It's one thing to say, hey, this network segment's being attacked, or this server's been owned, or something like that, and the CISO will go, yeah, well, what does that mean to me? What's that in English?
Yeah.
You say, your banking application is now offline and nobody can submit checks.
Yeah.
That's what the CISO wants to know at that point. He doesn't want to know all this. He just wants to know what the bottom line business impact is to him.
Yep.
So he can then go deal with it. And whether it's social media or whatever triage he has to do at that point.
Yeah, making the complex relatable to the point where people can take action with it right away.
Correct.
And then you can also talk about the technicalities later about how to prevent that in the future. So what about the other applications of IBM's data security technology to clients? Is this a kind of this isn't a one package fits all? It's tailored to every client personally, and does then the client get to pick which parts of IBM's data security they can take and apply to their business, or is it individually architected for each person? How does that? Yeah.
Well, the security business has offerings that are given. So there's data loss prevention. So if you're worried about data leaving, you select you want to have some data loss prevention. Okay, we can do anything from monitoring. So we can set up a security operations center and use the one that IBM has. We can help you set up your own security operations center if you want. So there's services. So there's as a service that you can buy outright, or we can help you set up those services and set up the software, and you can do it yourself. So there's a whole spectrum of things that you can select to do depending upon what best suits you or the client, and what outcome they're trying to achieve. So, and it might be a combination of things that they run themselves and some as a services that they buy. Because as a service, we see a broad spectrum across a bunch of clients. And so sometimes we might see something here that's applicable over there. Where if you're running it yourself, you won't see those kinds of indicators. But again, it's what the outcome the client is trying to achieve that we try to solution for.
Okay, this has been insightful. What do you think about the future of like quantum computing, quantum encryption? Does this seem? Do you guys talk about this a lot?
We do, and it's very much like when Watson was first coming along. So some of the use cases I had with Watson was, wouldn't it be awesome if Watson could watch the dark web and predict when something was going to happen before it happened, and we could get defenses in place before it happened. That to me is like the ultimate thing. So we look at quantum computing and quantum encryption, it's just encryption on steroids, right? Like the unbreakable. So if you look at AES 256 and how long it takes to break that, just think of what it would take with quantum encryption to break that. And I will never say that it's the unbreakable encryption, but it's going to be pretty darn close, I believe, to being unbreakable. And it's going to provide that safety. But that alone is not going to do it. It has to be coupled with other things to enable it.
Yeah.
Blockchain, and potentially other pieces of technology to really make it strong and make it useful for human beings. Because having an unbreakable piece of encryption without something else around it is not going to be as much fun. So we have to figure out how to best use it and leverage it.
What do you think about exponential technology exacerbating wealth inequality?
Help me with that one.
Like, although the argument that everybody that's in the lowest socioeconomic status is slowly coming up is very true, that people at the very top are going much faster.
Oh yeah, they're accelerating, yes.
Yeah. So what should we do about that?
that one's a hard one to me. And you almost, one part of you says, I live in Texas and we have the Robin Hood laws for the schools. That says the wealthier school districts have to send part of their money down to the not wealthier school districts. And, when my children were in school, you're thinking, why am I paying double for this? I've paid my taxes. Now they want to march in the band and I have to give them more money because the money's been sent out a thing. But then you have to stop and think, the only way that these people are going to come up, as long as they're willing to put forth the effort, right? We can't just.
How many
states
states have that Robin Hood law?
I don't know how many states have that Robin Hood law.
The whole state of Texas does?
My understanding is yes, it's the whole state.
And it's in per county, the wealthier schools.
Yeah, the wealthier school districts give part of their money to help subsidize the other ones that are not so wealthy, right? Yeah. And you look at it, and sometimes you get frustrated with it, but then you step back and you go, it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Because if not, these places wouldn't be able to afford to do some of the things.
And they might need their free reduced lunches. They might need their science textbooks.
Exactly.
And you would want the tools too if you were in their shoes.
Exactly. And I was in their shoes. Okay. Yeah. We had no money, so we were very dependent upon other places. For me to get things, I had to go to the public library, things like that. I couldn't own anything because the money we had went elsewhere, kind of thing. So, you would want to, you got to step back and look at it. As long as they're willing to pull their own weight, they're willing. I'm fine with helping them to raise them up, to be honest with you. I'd rather do that. And I know those who have way up here would really rather keep what they got. I get it. But, you have to look back and step back and look like the Bill and Melissa Gates foundations and things like that, and the things that they give back to the communities. I like to look at, how can I find grants or apply for awards that come with money and say, I would love to win this award, take that money and make IoT kits and give them to some place that could actually use them. Mm-hmm. And because you never know where the next Albert Einstein is going to be. It could be in these other districts. So you've got to enable them to be able to realize it.
Totally giving people opportunity.
You got to give them the opportunity.
Opportunity to actualize
exactly.
their fullest potential.
Exactly. And, I understand the people that are up here, and we're not up there. My family's not up there, but, we, again, we're taught, you share what you have. And you share what you have.
Share what you have, yeah, because how can I be happy if you're miserable?
Exactly.
Yeah. How about we ask you a couple of these more rapid fire questions at the end. What do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
The sound of my husband's laughter.
Yeah.
And my children's laughter, just because it indicates to me they're happy.
Yes.
They're happy and content.
I love the feeling of uncontrollable laughter.
It is.
You rarely get to feel it, and when you do feel it, it's only 5 or maybe 15 seconds at most straight. And it's hard. It's kind of like deja vu, except it's a little longer than deja vu. But I'd love to go back to those moments and just feel what it feels like a little longer. Unfettered
feelings of happiness when you're laughing.
Yes. How about, do you think we're alone in the cosmos?
No, I do not.
Expand a little bit.
I think there are other beings out there, to be honest with you. I'm fired from IBM.
I don't think so.
To me, there are, it's so vast. There's no way you can absolutely say there is not another sign of life out there. It's just too vast. The probabilities are not in our favor with that one, making that statement. And I've learned to never make absolute statements.
Yeah. Some binary statements help, though.
It does. Hot,
gravity,
cold.
But
those are more knowns. So
they're knowns, yeah.
Yeah, that one. The probability is if you make a statement that we are alone, the probability is you're going to be wrong. It's too vast. Play the odds.
Yeah. And then, do you think we're in a simulation?
I hope not. I would hate to wake up and find out we're in Ready Player One. Wouldn't you? Not that that would be bad, right? But I would hate to be like Ready Player One. So, and I'm sure you're familiar with that movie by Ernest Cline. But yeah, and the book was awesome too. By the way,
Yep.
The book was to me more awesome than the movie. But I would hate to wake up, or The Matrix, that this is the life we're living. I would hope that this is very real, because it's been a good run.
Yeah, it is. It is a good run. Humanity's had a good run, and
I mean, and look at all the problems that we've solved. Parkinson's would be the next big one I'd love to solve. My mother has it. And heart disease would be the next two big ones. And everything, when you pick those things, is because they're personal, right? So those would be the next things I'd love to see solved.
yeah, I want to keep seeing humanity run, but at the same time, I do think that the reason why we ask the question so much is because I like the idea that you said of the waking up and you're not even in the world that you were in anymore. You're into something else, like Ready Player One.
Yeah.
We ask the question a lot because we like to expand people's minds to the awareness of the potential of what simulation theory is actually like.
Yeah.
So this has been very insightful. This has been really, really insightful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for the time.
I've actually had a good time. Thank you.
Good, Rhonda. Glad to hear that. We've learned a lot about encryption, obfuscation, depth and defense, testing those fences,
Yep.
The slow method of creeping in and taking some cake along the way, seeing what you can get away with. The castle and moat analogy, concentric circles, was really good. And even patents and knowing how to, the invention mindset, the inventor mindset, and getting out and making even some prior art if that's what we can do for the world. Bring some open source stuff as well. So this has been very insightful, and let's see if we'll put some links in the bio to your work on your site, and then we'll also tell the viewers at home, thanks for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. If you had a good time, make sure to share the content with other people. Make sure to go and create with the content. Don't just consume. Go and make something with it. Go and talk about these things on video or in writing. Go and build something with it yourself. Join the family, subscribe, comment below with your thoughts. We'd love to share them as well. Also, join us on Patreon so we can keep doing cool things like bringing the equipment to awesome conferences and highlighting brilliant leaders. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.